The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Creating an Effective Self-Service Strategy. My name is Scarlett and I'm the Industry Analyst at SDI. A quick thank you to today's sponsor, Vivantio, and I'm joined by Helen Heyns, who's the Implementation Consultant at Vivantio. Hello, Helen.
Hello, Scarlett.
Hi, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So a bit later on, Helen will be discussing self-service in depth, but first I'll be discussing some data from a report that SDI produced last year, which surrounds self-service and is relevant to its relevance and impact on the industry. So for several years, self-service has played an integral role in the support structure of the modern service desk. Despite this, the value that this technology offers is not yet fully understood. There are some common industry challenges associated with self-service, like changing customer habits and realizing ROI, that can severely impact upon the value organizations can deliver. The motivations that drive an organization to implement self-service technologies vary considerably. Nevertheless, understanding them and what matters most to the industry is vital to understanding both the industry perception of these tools and how they gauge return on investment. We can see that the percentage of service desks which have implemented self-service constitutes nearly 2/3 of the industry, which is a 14% increase since 2013. This also lines up with other reports that SDI have produced, so it's fair to say that this is an accurate industry-wide statistic. It's quite positive also, as it shows that more of the industry has the potential to realise the benefits of self-service, like increased productivity and efficiency, cost reductions, freeing up of time and resources, and even improved customer experience. Beginning with the 74% of the industry who have implemented self-service, we will analyse a range of important factors from the number of motivations met to the common hurdles faced by the industry. However, the first step is to understand how long self-service technologies have been in place in respondents' organisations. While this is a good indicator of a tool's maturity, age is particularly useful to understand how long organisations have had to realise their objectives. 55% of respondents advised that their solution is over 2 years old, 24% of which are older than 5 years, providing a sample of the industry that's allowed for a reasonable amount of time to realise their implementation objectives. Furthermore, only 22% of the sample has a tool less than a year old, which is important to note because it's unlikely that they would have achieved the full benefits of a solution embedded into their tool structure. Establishing the initial motivations service desks have for implementing self-service is critical to understanding the perception of the technology and matching up motivations with achieved benefits. Positively, the strongest motivation for implementing self-service is to improve service to end users, with 90% of respondents advising that this motivated them. There's currently a notable shift within the industry, which demonstrates a greater focus on the customer experience. So the fact that this is the most popular motivation for implementing self-service is an excellent indicator of the fact that the industry is moving. The second and third most popular motivations demonstrate a clear perception within the industry of what self-service can offer. 66% of respondents advised that saving time and freeing up resources were the driving forces behind their implementation. In doing this, service desk analysts have the capacity to take on workloads which could be considered more complex and more valuable, such as tasks which are typically performed by second-line staff. Subsequently, second line are now available to take on more tasks which are considered third line, and this is also known as shift left, the shifting of workloads to lower level teams or technology in order to reduce costs and increase efficiency and productivity. It's significant to note that while cost reduction is a key factor for over 50% of respondents, there's still a good 25% gap between those who wanted to reduce costs and those who sought to free up resources and time. This indicates that many in this industry understand that new technologies don't simply offer opportunities to save money, but also provide service desks with the chance to reduce time-consuming, low-value activities and concentrate resources in more valuable areas of the support function. User demand is a key motivation for only 31% of respondents, signalling the foundations for a potential obstacle further into the implementation journey. Without support and demand from customers, organizations may struggle at first to encourage user adoption. Interestingly, motivations have changed relatively little since the first study, with the order of priority remaining similar. In 2013, the top 3 motivations were also improving service to end users, freeing up resources and saving time. The only notable difference is a decrease in the respondents motivated by vendor recommendations, decreasing from 12% to 5% in 4 years. Unfortunately, the majority of respondents were not able to meet all of their motivations. The largest segment of respondents, representing 63% of the industry, were able to meet some, but not all of their objectives. There are 3 key areas worth exploring when drawing inferences into the potential causes of this result. Foremost, the disparity between perception and reality may have caused unrealistic expectations from the outset, which could potentially have been driven by sales and marketing materials during the procurement and implementation stages. The second is that respondents appear to have a broad range of motivations, as can be seen in the previous graph, which has likely resulted in them concentrating on the most important motivations and allowing the secondary ones to lapse. Equally, there's the third possibility that the technology just failed to meet their expectations and the needs of the organisation. Positively, however, no respondents advised that they had failed to meet any of their motivations, and 17% advised that they had met all of them. When compared to the original study carried out in 2013, there are both positive and negative signs. In 2013, 7% of respondents failed to achieve any of their objectives, an encouraging signal for the increased return organisations are achieving today. However, this is balanced by the 21% of organisations achieving all of their motivations in 2013, compared to just 17% in 2017. With so many organisations failing to meet all of their objectives and motivations that they set out with, it's vital to understand the obstacles they faced in their implementation journey. The greatest challenge faced is that end users simply prefer the human touch, a trend that often inhibits the adoption of non-traditional support channels. Over 70% of respondents advise this as a challenge that they're facing. It's important before implementing a self-service portal that you discuss with your customers and assess whether a self-service portal is right for them and how it can be best suited to their needs. Of course, self-service is designed to reduce the number of calls to the service desk, but an inefficient or poorly designed or implemented portal will simply drive more traffic to the phones, but this time to log issues with the portal. The second most common hurdle relates to the lack of marketing awareness in the organisation, which inhibits the ability of service desk staff to build an understanding of the capabilities and value of the tool to the customers. Undoubtedly, this challenge is a contributor to the broader problem of customers preferring the tool to call the service desk directly. If customers are unaware of the tool or the outcomes that it delivers, then this will have a direct impact on adoption rates. 26% of the industry faces challenges with the design of the tool, of which the most commonly cited aspects are poor user interface and restrictive workflows, with the latter turning customers towards the path of least resistance, which is often to phone the service desk directly. Building a self-service portal that is intuitive and easy to understand is critical to driving customer adoption and building customer loyalty. If a tool is challenging to use, customers who have tried it once are unlikely to return to use it again. Worse, they are also likely to discourage other customers from using it as well. Analysing the benefits recognised by service desk professionals and, where possible, matching these with the motivations discussed earlier, this will serve as the final method of assessing the success of current self-service implementations. Encouragingly, reducing call volumes is a benefit recognised by most respondents, linking up to the 2 of the key motivations established earlier, freeing up time and resources. Similarly, delivering an improved customer experience was the top motivation for service desk professionals and is a benefit recognised by over 50%. It would be reasonable to suggest at this stage that freeing up time and resources and improving the customer experience are the most likely motivations to be met for an organisation embarking on a self-service implementation. We have seen that one objective of implementing self-service is to cut costs, which seems to be an obtainable goal, with 38% of respondents advising that this was a benefit they achieved. However, the evidence suggests that lowering costs is a side effect of other motivations, such as reducing calls to the service desk, rather than the core driver of a successful implementation. There are several benefits here that are interlinked. For example, providing 24/7 support can improve the perception of the service desk, as can a better customer experience. The latter can both be impacted and impact an improved relationship with the end user. Reduced call volumes can increase productivity and therefore lower the cost of support. This is not to say that self-service is the silver bullet to a flawless service. There is certainly evidence here and throughout the industry to suggest that implementing a self-service portal has the potential to positively impact multiple areas of your service. Now let's look to the 26% of respondents who identified that they've not implemented self-service. Further cementing the idea that self-service solutions are a vital pillar of the more modern support function, of the 26% of organisations who have not yet implemented a self-service solution, the vast majority have ambitions to in the future, with 94% of respondents highlighting that they want to implement self-service. The overwhelming desire to implement a solution is interesting and positive to note, but it's important to understand how this translates to actual planning. After establishing a need to build a self-service offering into the support structure, the next step is to develop a plan. Without a plan to implement, it's unlikely professionals will be able to progress any further on their journey. As a result, it's an important measure of an organisation's real ambition to adopt the technology. It's somewhat disappointing then that of the considerable proportion of the industry that would like to implement the solution, only 61% have a plan to do so. Often service desk professionals understand the value a new tool or technology will offer, but are unable to articulate its value to its customers or the business. Many other obstacles can stand in the way of service desks implementing self-service. Some are possible to overcome with time and resources, while others, like a lack of customer or business demand, can bring ambitions to a dead end. Nevertheless, the percentage of organisations that do have plans to implement self-service since the first study has increased considerably from just 47%. The most common obstacle faced by service desk professionals seeking to implement self-service is time. For many service desks, time is a scarce resource and one that's challenging to allocate to other projects. Other SDI data shows that the biggest portion of time on the service desk is spent firefighting, which can make it difficult to find the time and resources available to implement a solution. But it's unsurprising, therefore, to see that this is cited by 50% of the industry as one of their greatest obstacles. Significantly, a lack of appetite from end users in the business is the second most common barrier, cited by 40% of the industry. Clearly, there are challenges for both those who have and have not implemented the tool in driving demand through marketing and promotional activities. On either side of the coin, the lack of demand is a major challenge, leading to adoption issues in those who implement a solution without a foundation of user demand and halting the journey entirely for others. What we can see from the next few stats is that there are an opportunity within the industry for vendors to interact with service desk professionals and guide them on their self-service journey. For example, 13% of respondents advise that they don't have an understanding of how to implement a solution, a knowledge gap that could be filled by an experienced vendor partner. Similarly, 27% have advised that their current ITSM tool is not capable of providing self-service, despite clear ambition from the organisation to implement it. Again, a suitable vendor partner could work with these organisations to configure a tool that meets their goals. The value of self-service tools is undoubtedly known in the service desk industry, with only a small percentage of respondents advising assessments of returns and benefits had prevented any further exploration of solutions. If this research has confirmed one thing, it's that the value of self-service solutions is known to service desk professionals. However, this often does not translate to the user and business demand, causing considerable obstacles for organisations trying to build stronger adoption rates and those seeking to embark on their journey. However, the data gained from this report and other research undertaken by SDI is that within the wider industry has shown that the self-service is impacting the service desk and improving its efficiency and productivity, the customer experience and the perception of the service desk, as well as the relationship between the service desk, IT and the wider business. And these benefits will only become more achievable as time goes by, as the capabilities and implementations of self-service solutions develop. Service desks that are armed with the experience and knowledge of vendor organisations and supplied with the tools that meet their needs and ambitions, they will undoubtedly overcome the myriad of obstacles facing the modern service desk when it comes to a successful service. So now I'm going to hand over to Helen, who is going to delve into self-service a little bit more and share a customer journey with you.
Thank you, Scarlett. Those facts were certainly very interesting, and thank you for the warm introduction there. So hello everyone, my name is Helen Heyns. I'm one of the product specialists at Vivantio, and I've been with Vivantio for 5 years now as an ITSM and ITIL consultant. A large part of my role has actually been dedicated to working with organisations to help support and develop and deliver self-service strategies. So a little bit about Vivantio. Vivantio has been delivering help desk, service and service management solutions for over a decade. As a pioneer in cloud-based service management software, Vivantio are one of the most experienced vendors in web-based software delivery. Web-based self-service has actually been a part of the product offering from the very beginning. With offices across the UK and the US, and with customers spanning the globe, thousands of users depend on Vivantio to deliver service excellence to their customers. Over 99% of Vivantio's customers use self-service as part of their service management strategy in order to respond to queries, offer self-help, and to improve service efficiency, bringing down costs and helping improve customer service to over 1 million end users. So over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to look at self-service in general, what it is and what it does, how to develop a self-service strategy, how to deploy self-service within your organization for both internal and external customers, and the benefits to organizations of self-service and how to measure the success. So if we go back just 10 years, the landscape was very different in IT or customer service teams than it is today. The IT team was the most often the only team that had tools to support their business processes, and most people relied on speaking to a technical expert to resolve issues. There were very few ways to promote self-help other than through manuals or other printed materials. And although early adopters of intranets and self-help websites made attempts at getting end users to self-diagnose and fix issues, people found it hard to find what they really needed, or simply didn't understand. It was quicker to pick up the phone and in most cases get an immediate solution from a specialist. Fast forward to today, and technology has gone from being a business-to-business only thing to become a persuasive part of everyday people's lives. And that has led to increasing expectations of all service teams, small or large. And so service management departments are constantly seeking new ways in which to manage growing numbers of service requests while continually meeting the needs and the several service level agreements agreed within the business. Usually this is with no increase in budget and pressure to overheads. It's not just an IT problem anymore. And not only has the use of technology exploded across all business units in organizations, but service excellence is also expected from other customer-facing operations, such as customer services, HR, finance, facilities, risk and compliance, and so on. Fortunately, during this technical revolution, our customers have also become far savvier with technology, forming part of their everyday lives, whether it's finding out how to treat an eye infection or why their TV keeps switching on in the middle of the night. Consumers have the tools, the know-how and the desire to find solutions online. Therefore, developing systems to allow customers to find information, report problems, or request services even, aligns with their current experiences. But it must be done right, and it must be effective right from the start in order to meet the demands of customer expectations. So self-service is a concept of empowering your customers. Organizations face challenges in increasing their return on investment, improving efficiency and delivering exemplary customer service. And these are not mutually exclusive. Self-service is a tool or a number of tools that can help support this, and it can be achieved in a number of ways. Teleprompting a telephone user to navigate them to the team that they can best answer their question is one. Providing manuals or resources is another. And very soon we'll be talking about chatbots and artificial intelligence. But today, the most effective method of deploying a self-service strategy for empowering your customers is using a web-based self-service portal that's fully integrated into the management application. As a core part of service management tools, the purpose of the self-service portal is to publish relevant information for your customers in an effective way, make announcements to the organization about services, accept requests for support, help or advice, and keep those customers informed on progress, gather information when required, streamline and automate business processes, help promote your business, which is actually especially important when supporting customers outside of your organization, and finally to help meet service level and business agreements. Determining how effective self-service will be for your organisation is the first step. As we have discussed, there are many ways to empower your customers, depending upon their need or your business requirements. As well as supporting the improvements in the service desk, there are factors you might want to consider when evaluating self-service for your organisation. The first one is to provide 24/7 support without needing around-the-clock personnel. To act as a gateway in the event of a business-wide problem, rather than receiving several hundred calls, update self-service homepage so that everyone is updated to let them know that it will be investigated. Better accuracy of the demand of your team, so do all telephone calls really get logged by the service team? If 20% of your staff time is unaccounted for, despite them actually dealing with requests, what impact would that have on your budget or available resources? It can reduce the first response required by frontline staff, or in some organisations allow you to complete one task without interruption. And it also gives your customers and end users a sense of accomplishment in solving their own technical issues. It would be great if we could just tell you how to build your self-service portal. But the reality is every company is different. Sometimes the processes are similar, but the products and services are different, and vice versa. So instead, we'll talk to you about what you need to gather to help build a self-service strategy, as well as some of the questions you'll need to ask yourself and your customers about what they want to achieve. So firstly, we'll need to dig into the data, dig into the service desk data particularly. So by analysing current service requests, you'll get an understanding of what your customers most commonly ask for. When looking at the data, split out requests from consumed versus created information. So consumed information is a request for something that needs to be read, analysed or understood. And this is not just manuals or guides, but also extends to authorising or agreeing requests such as a request for change or a manager approving an application for an employee. Typically, self-service portals will achieve this by providing some sort of knowledge management. Most of this will come directly from the service management product itself in the form of a knowledge base or question and answer wizards, sometimes guides and manuals, but not always. Intranets, blogs, forums, social media, videos, they all form part of knowledge strategy within the realms of self-service. Created data relates to actual requests for help, such as typical IT requests, incident requests, or questions from customers that need to be assessed, and a response or solution provided. Lastly, there's a combination of both. So in this instance, can the request for help be prevented by the consumption of information? This is self-help, an instance where a customer has a problem that needs to be fixed, but they can find, understand and resolve the problem themselves through the self-service portal. So one question to ask when assessing the types of requests that come in, can we also determine where they need to go? Although we could just log every request in the help desk and then let the first line response team figure it out, this takes time. Time for the responder to view the tickets, time for them to understand and assign it to the right resolver group. And if the next step in providing a solution is then to gather further information, the process becomes very inefficient. Instead, consider what types of requests you get and then take the customer on a journey that captures all of the information from the outset. Using request types, determine the service team that needs to receive the request. So does this need to be passed on to IT as an incident, development as a bug, or HR as a complaint? Using request categories, drill down further and then use custom processes and custom forms and fields to capture information that will help the solution provider. So this is a software bug. What was the product? What was the version? What was the error? Can it be reproduced? Do you provide a screen grab? Without self-service, this process would have to be done in person or via a string of emails. And this also means that your end users are doing some of the diagnosis phases for you, so reducing time and frustration on both sides. Once all the information has been gathered, we now also know enough to send that request directly to the resolver group, most likely to be able to provide a solution. So that works well for one-off requests, but what about more complex requests such as service requests? Using New Starter as an example, multiple service teams might need to be involved in completing a request. So from HR and payroll, dealing with employment-related tasks, facilities management, dealing with seating needs, and IT for computer equipment, software and licensing. Developing and deploying service catalog is a great way to achieve this. And again, self-service portals provide a mechanism that enables capturing this information easy, especially in conjunction with business rules, workflow engines, and we can automate much of the process. No more requests that just say, can I have a new laptop? Now the request can say, can I have a new Dell Inspiron with a 15-inch screen to support me working remotely? And the IT team doesn't even need to see the requests until the line manager has approved it. The other important role of the self-service portal is to keep customers informed and managing the customer experience. The tool should allow your team to continue to engage with your customer in providing feedback on the state of the request. So who is dealing with it, what SLA has it been given, and so when a resolution is likely, as well as continuing to liaise with the customer to gather further information. So you also might want to consider what process permissions you wish to grant the customer. Can they change the category, close the request, or escalate it? And lastly, talk to your customers and find out what they want, what frustrates them, and what are they looking for in an online system that can help and benefit them. In our experience, it's not difficult asking and hearing from customers about things they'd like to see improved. A key element to any successful self-service strategy is in the user experience. So today you can't rely on process alone. The portal needs to be designed so that it's inviting, makes sense, and lays out information to the customer that helps them quickly in knowing what to do next with little prior knowledge of the process. For that reason, you may wish to consider multiple portals. Perhaps separate out IT and HR portals completely. They can then have different designs, layouts, and information that help separate out those business processes. For those supporting external customers, perhaps different portals for different products, or different portals for different customers. And if you are a managed service provider, perhaps even portals that reflect each customer's brand. When looking at design, your service management tool should provide the capabilities to manage all of this with little effort. Everything from what types of information or data capture you wish to deploy, the look, feel, and style of the portal, and what process and data permissions apply and to whom. So we're going to take a look at one of our customer success stories. The customer in question is a global business process outsourcing company whose team of 400 IT staff provide technical support to an excess of 20,000 end users, and they are processing 20,000 tickets per month. As a user of Vivantio since 2012, this customer has experienced consistent year-on-year growth. Their requirements started off fairly simple, with a smaller team providing support via phone and email. However, as time went on, they noticed some undesirable trends in behaviour with their service team. So their end users had favourite support staff who they would contact directly outside of the official channels, resulting in an unbalanced workload. For phone support in particular, there were two worrying problems. Whichever end user shouted the loudest was dealt with first, so meaning SLAs were missed and more on critical issues logged by less vocal customers. And secondly, the work simply wasn't being recorded. So if the issues were resolved during the first phone call, tickets weren't created, making it difficult to track what was really going on. As their customer base expanded, their team spent more and more time copying and pasting solutions for common problems. This was made easy to do thanks to Vivantio's templates, but it was still a distraction for them. This came to a head in 2016 when they acquired another company with a smaller IT team. That team had been making limited use of a web-based self-service portal, but had still been providing an effective global service. Our customers saw the benefits of using a self-service portal and came to Vivantio for help in defining their own self-service strategy. So the first step in defining the strategy was to look at their goals, what they wanted to achieve and how they wanted to measure it. Using Vivantio's reporting tools, they determined that 49% of requests came in via phone, with the next 43 logged via email. Given how much time their team spent on the phone, they thought this might be inaccurate. As we mentioned earlier, not all phone calls were being recorded. Just 8% of requests were coming in from their current portal. Then they looked at the type of requests being logged, so roughly 30% of those requests were service requests. They looked at the end users who were using the current portal and determined that it was primarily line managers who were using it, and those users were also logging tickets in the self-service portal. For the first phase of their self-service strategy, we transitioned all service requests over to the self-service portal. They knew that they were working with a set of more senior users, a number of whom were already using the self-service portal effectively. Giving them an engaged audience who could not only provide feedback on what they did and didn't like, but the current portal, and who could act as internal champions among their peers. This approach was highly successful, and through a series of internal webinars, the self-service portal was relaunched to those users, and within 3 months, 90% of service requests were now coming in via the self-service portal. Diving back into their data, they noticed a couple of interesting things. So firstly, as expected, or more accurately hoped, performance on service requests improved. One of the key KPIs they tracked using Vivantio was the time between the initial request being logged and the time fulfillment of the request started. On average, this decreased by 40%. This was a direct result of users being prompted to provide more information up front. The IT team no longer needed to spend time going back and forth with the user to determine what exactly they needed. The second and more unexpected result was the effect of the number of incidents being logged via the portal. So in the months following the launch for service requests, the percentage of incidents being logged via the portal rose from 8 to 15%. Some of this they knew was as a result of those users logging self-service requests, also starting to use the portal for incidents. However, that didn't fully explain the increased usage. After speaking with their teams, they found that the users had transitioned over such a positive experience, they had been using the portal for their direct reports. Phase 2 now seemed obvious. Build on the success of Phase 1. There were some concerns about how to approach this. Although things had gone better than planned, they had a great success story. They still had to change the minds and hearts of 85% of their users. And some of those users were the VPs and SVPs, harder people to please. Taking what they learned, they set a target increasing incidents logged through the portal from 15 to 40%. Another survey was conducted of users identified as having logged more than 50% of their tickets via the portal over the previous 6 months, asking what did they like and what they didn't like. The survey showed that there was some confusion. Users didn't always know what type of request to submit or what category to choose. And when that happened, they would just simply pick up the phone instead. There was also some confusion around branding. Although the company logo was on the self-service portal, it didn't match the recently revamped company intranet. So with the recent publicity about phishing attacks, they were a little concerned they were in the wrong place. Both problems were easily addressed. Vivantio's professional services team worked with the company's internal administrators to restrict the incident category shown within the self-service portal to make it easier to choose the right category. We then worked with their internal web development team to update the portal to match their intranet. New user groups were set up to showcase the changes to the users who had been surveyed, and positive feedback was received. A few iterations were needed to get things perfect, but it didn't take too long before the portal was ready to launch. This time to those users who had used the portal before, but infrequently. More webinars were conducted, and the IT service team were excited about the prospect of being able to work more efficiently. So 3 months later, they got some more surprising results. The number of incidents logged by the portal wasn't what they expected. Some more detailed analysis showed the reason. They weren't getting as many tickets logged. The percentage of incidents was higher, but the total incident volume was lower. Success. Phase 3 was to get the portal used by the end users who had never used the portal before. Some of those users, the CIOs, for example, they knew were a lost cause, but they were filled with confidence from the first 2 launches and had a wealth of feedback and user success stories to use in their internal marketing material. So they set the target at 80% of incidents to be logged via that portal, and after 6 months, via the portal after 6 months, but then after 4 months, so 4 months later, they were at 83% and climbing. The percentage of tickets being resolved within SLA was up, and satisfaction was actually at an all-time high. So how do you know if it's working? Some of the ways in which you can determine the success of the self-service portal is by digging back into data. If you compare the data from your initial assessment to what's happening now, have telephone and email call volumes been reduced? Are you doing better at meeting your service levels? Are satisfaction survey results trending upwards? Assess the life cycle of requests by different methods. So for a particular type of request or ticket category, are tickets being logged and managed by self-service dealt with more effectively than others? Use analytics tools to assess the portal usage. Assess logins and bounce rates. Check stats on ticket ad pages to completed call to actions to see if customers are dropping out of the ticket process. For consumed information, consider document ratings and mini surveys on whether the information was helpful. Did it solve their problem? Will it help refine online knowledge management? There is also the success that is harder to measure, like the customer's perception of the service. Here, satisfaction surveys, net promoter scores, and user groups are great ways to talk to customers and understand how they perceive the service and where they'd like to see improvements or changes. This will feed back into your wider continual improvement process of any service management framework that you might want to use, such as ITIL. Other things to think about as part of an overall strategy that we don't have time to cover today, but the need to discover the portal via mobile devices for people on the move. What role customer to technician chat plays in all of this and when it's most appropriate. And also blogs, forums and social media and how they might be used. Lastly, security. So security should also play a real integral part of the self-service deployment. A publicly facing self-service portal needs to be totally secure, given that behind it there may be extremely sensitive data. So single sign-on or two-factor authentication may be methods to improve gated security, along with strong password policies. And for those logged into the portal, make sure the security policies within the service management tool don't expose the wrong data to the wrong customer. So we've covered a lot today in this webinar, and I hope you have found it useful. In summary, the key to creating a successful self-service portal is built on a strategy where data can be analysed and an understanding of what information can be distributed and what processes can be automated in order to provide and improve service efficiency and ultimately empower the customer. All of which lead to service improvement and a great customer service as part of your overall service management strategy.
Thank you very much for that, Helen. That was really interesting. We have a few questions from the audience. So someone wants to know if you need technical expertise to set up a portal.
No, you don't need any technical expertise at all. None at all. To get certainly there's areas of custom CSS and HTML, but a Vivantio self-service portal can be up and running very quickly, and we can certainly help you with that. If you don't have any CSS or HTML, but you are able to use what we have, actually wizard-based tools to create layouts and widgets, but we can provide full support. Our implementation team will support you on the setup and configuration of a portal to ensure that the deadlines are met.
Great. And you also mentioned that another consideration for a portal was mobile devices. Can you tell us how that works, just briefly, because it's important for some businesses?
Yeah, so our portal can be used on any mobile device. So if your field team are located maybe internationally, then you're able to configure that as part of the setup of the portal. So specific requirements can be discussed to ensure that the site contains all of your relevant information, but it's really easy to set up.
Okay, great. We have a question about someone that wants to engage with some champions from the business to help promote their service tool to their colleagues. So one tip I would have for that is to identify your most frequent users and perhaps ones that fill out customer satisfaction surveys quite a lot, and sort of train them in the tool and ask them to talk to their colleagues about it. Do you have any tips for that, Helen?
Yes, absolutely. I do agree with that as well. We found that working with our customers, we've managed to identify champions, one by asking. Some people tend to volunteer, and yes, we certainly know that those people who are more involved in asking questions and surveys and yes, just being involved in the process are the most helpful as champions.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. Someone's asked, what would you say are the best ways to get end users to buy into self-service tools? Okay, so
self-service can be a big change, and certainly implementing one needs to be appealing. And firstly, as we've just said in the presentation, to make sure that the correct branding is there so that they feel comfortable knowing that that's where they need to be. But also the home screen of a self-service portal is really great for adding information and news and updates, and you can encourage your end users to come there to find information, to encourage self-help. So getting information on that screen and pointing them into that direction will allow them to see how beneficial a self-service portal can be to help them save time.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Someone else has asked, most of our portal users are service desk users from our customers rather than end users. Do you have any tips for molding our portals for this kind of use?
So sorry, they're internal to the company. Is that correct?
Portal users are service desk from our customers rather than end users. Yeah, so I'd say that's internal.
Yeah,
sorry, he's just replied external.
They're external. And so sorry, can you repeat the question again then?
So most of our portal users are service desks from our customers rather than end users. Do you have any tips for molding our portals for this kind of use?
Okay, so if you need to have multiple self-service portals, that's absolutely fine. You can create different portals for different customers. You can brand them differently. Of course, if they don't need to be branded differently, you have roles and permissions, so you can separate data in that way.
All right, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Helen. I think that's about all we have time for today.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us and listening. I hope you have a great day.